Okay, welcome back to Nicholas Comic Corner Classics / Non-Classics. This is episode number 1379 and Doubleshot number 1273. This one is uniquely different from my other episodes that I've done for the whole series. I haven't done this since like the early episodes. Just having an episode talking about individual comic books instead of just basically just the graphic novels. Yes, I've done occasionally like throw in some additional issues to the cover, basically so they weren't covered in a particular trade paperback. But I have a good reason for this stuff. Now, I'm going to cover this one, basically issues 29, 35, 37, and 54 to 60 of Justice League America Volume 2, Justice Society America Volume 343, and the first 7 issues of Captain America and the Mighty Avengers. That series. First 7 of 9 issues. Now, the first 4 issues discussed here, 29 and 35 to 37, of Justice League America Volume 2. Here's the thing about these issues. There is no trade to collect these issues. As far as I know, there has been no explained reason for this at all. Well, for one thing, the thing is, DC had what seems as though, if you look at the trades and look at the issues that were skipped over, apparently DC had a very strange policy at that time, where like, oh, if the issue was not written by the regular writer, don't put in the trade. That's what it seems like to me, and I know this is prevalently in the Birds of Prey trades, where like several issues are skipped over for like no reason at all. Now, this issue came out roughly 12 years ago, and to this day, this book has never been released in trade. I don't really know why. It's one of the most strangest things when it comes to Marvel Comics itself, DC Comics itself. I'm just checking something here. Okay. Alright, now, this issue here, issue 29, is written by Ewing. Yes, the guy who passed away just a few years ago. And the artwork in here is done by Crisscross. Yep. This whole issue is focused on the villain of the previous issues, Starbreaker. Yep. It's a Faces of the Evil tie-in. Faces of the Evil, from what I can tell, was DC's attempt in 2000, because this is basically, in a way, a series of loose one-shot tie-ins to Final Crisis, or at least stuff that basically helps sets up Final Crisis. That is literally what these issues are. Setups for Final Crisis. This whole issue is focused on Starbreaker. It's called Starstruck. It's basically in the casebook. It's basically telling about his recap of his battles with the Justice League over the years. That's simply put what this issue is. It's a pretty well done issue. Basically have a scenario where he beats Justice League or Justice League beats him. Now, the members that show up in this issue are basically people who are, at the time this issue came out, technically not on the team anymore. You have the Bruce Wayne Batman, Hawkman, Hawkgirl, Green Arrow, Flash. This I believe is supposed to be at the time. Well, this is probably before Final Crisis. This is Wally West and Aquaman along with the Atom. Yep, and this is simply them versus, well, Starstruck, Starstalker, and the thing ends with appearance by the Shadow Thief. Interesting issue. Yep. Yeah, it's a very strange issue per se. It's not a terrible issue, but things do get a little bit better here. Yes, here are more issues by Ewing. Yes, he wrote these issues. And I'm like, really? You don't put these issues in there for like no reason at all? Now, there's new artists in these issues. This is Tom Durant, who actually has some issues of the series put in the trade. Yeah, this was released in September of 2009. Yes, This is a first of a three-parter that's pretty much the Justice League versus the Royal Flush Gang. Though this is more of an expansive version of the Royal Flush Gang, it's not just a group of 5 people. It's a national crime syndicate. Yep. And things starts off in Las Vegas. Like, wait, Royal Flush Gang, Las Vegas. Did this comic book rip off an episode from Justice League, the animated series? You probably would think so. If you were gambling, and then of course you have the Royal Flush Gang show up. Yeah, it's a new improved Royal Flush Gang. Yep. Who is behind this particular syndicate? Well, we're about to find out soon by the end of the first issue. And then, of course, we have them taking over a casino. And then we have the Jason Rush Firestorm show up. And you're probably asking, Nick, Jason Rush Firestorm. Who the heck is Jason Rush? I mean, people know who Firestorm is, thanks to, of course, his appearance on Flash. Jason Rush was, in the mid-2000s, meant to be a replacement for Firestorm, from what I could tell. I wasn't reading at that point, but I have read the book. It's actually a pretty good book. It has a lot of references to the original host of the Firestorm Matrix, Ryan Reedman, who at this point was dead. Yeah, he got killed off in an identity crisis by the Shadow Thief. Yes. And, of course, he's here at the Justice League headquarters. This is, of course, right after the events of Cry for Justice, where the Justice League disbanded, though they did kind of reform. We have Firestorm joining the group along with Vixen, who Alpha is much more revealing than it is in the cartoon. Like, oh my gosh, you can almost look like, I mean, the way she's drawn here, it's almost like she's Catwoman. Almost you can kind of say that she's about to take off her costume right in front of Jason Rush. I mean, Vixen's hot, so she has every right to do this. So they basically go up to stop the Real Flush Gang. So it's just these two. But don't worry, they're joined by Dr. Light and Red Tornado. Not bad choices. Red Tornado's been on and off member since the 60s. Dr. Light. You're probably thinking, Dr. Light, you mean Dr. Arthur? No, this is the Japanese Dr. Light. Yes, she got her powers thanks to the monitor back in the 80s. Yeah, she's been on and off since the 80s. Yep, and they're not the only person who basically shows up here. We also have Plastic Man. Yes, Plastic Man is here. And he doesn't get along with Dr. Light. Yeah. The way he's drawn here, it's almost like Plastic Man is older than he looks. I mean, I think he's supposed to be roughly in his 30s at this point. But the way he's drawn here, based on the way his face is, it's almost like he's supposed to be in his 60s. But still with the same hair color. Oh yeah, and the way that when he writes these two, they do not get along at all. Acting very childish. And then, of course, he decides to go in and basically disguise himself as a slot machine. And then it's like, you have King show up. You have King of the Royal Flush Gang just pulls in the slot machine. Tilt. You lose. And, of course, Plastic Man beats up the king of this particular group. Firestorm jumps in. And, of course, we have Vixen showing up, basically buying Ace. And everything's like, all the money's going out. And then, of course, Dr. Light keeps ruining everything with her blinding light. But then, of course, we see this mysterious woman who basically works with the Royal Flush Gang. And we reveal who's in charge of the syndicate. Roulette and Professor Amos Fontaine. You're probably thinking, who the heck is... Now, people probably know who Roulette is. I mean, she was on Justice League America. Well, Justice League series. Yeah, she popped up occasionally on that series. And yes, she did pop up in Smallville. Believe it or not, she actually showed up in a JSA Secret Files book. Yeah, that was her first appearance in the JSA book. And I'm like, really? Yeah, really. Excuse me. As for Professor Amos Fontaine, but what I know about this guy, he was the original ace of the original Royal Flush Gang from the 1970s. I believe he's a creation of Ewing, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see if I can find him here. I believe he is because, well, He's basically codenamed as Wildcard. Let's see. No, he's a creation of Gardner Fox. Yeah, but he is heavily associated with the Royal Flush Gang. Yeah, that's the thing with this guy. So yeah, he's a classic JLA villain. Roulette, of course, is a character who first showed up on the pages of JSA. JSA Secret Files Orders number 2. Her last appearance was in Mighty Crusader Special number 1 back in 2010. Yeah, that was her last appearance to date. That was like 10 years ago. Has she shown up in present day? Let's see if I can find her here. Here she is. Let's see. Has she shown up currently? Yes, she showed up pages of Catwoman. Yeah. She mostly has shown up mostly in Catwoman for like one story arc, probably a couple of shit back up Birds of Prey, and recently in The Flash. That's it. That's all she's done lately. Yep. Her grandmother basically was the original Roulette, and she's like the modern day equivalent. And she also was a frequent player on the JLA Limited series, mostly as a recurring character, though she basically was also for a fan fiction I read. I'm not going to say what happened in the book, what happened in this fan fiction, because, well, it's kind of weird. And I'm not going to discuss it anymore. So, they're basically planning for the next thing. It is interesting, though, we have Ewing not coming from one issue, she comes in for 3 straight issues. Yep. So, next issue, which they're in Midway City. Yeah, it starts out in Midway City, where it basically has a version of the Royal Flush Gang, a tech version. You're probably thinking, Midway City, isn't this the hometown of Hawkman? Yeah, yes it is. And here's the strange thing about it. Hawkman is nowhere to be seen. At all. But we do have people show up in this book, so don't worry. So helping out people who show up in the last issue, well, they take out this tech version, though. They do have some help in the form of Wonder Woman in her outfit she had. This was actually just a couple years prior to JMS putting her in pants. The other way Tom Durant draws her, it's like, wow. And heck, basically, yeah, Plastic Man basically hitting on her. And, of course, well, Plastic Man hit because basically called me a sexist because he basically chastised Dr. Light. Dr. Light is hot, but I guess because Wonder Woman is basically considered to be some people consider a goddess, even though in the current comic she literally is. Yep. So she agrees to join this version, Justice League. And of course, well, Fontaine and Roulette basically are watching this. And then we see Roulette's childhood, where apparently he's always been obsessed with cards. Interesting. But yeah. And of course, seeing when he forms the Royal Flush Gang, fight the JLA back in the 70s. Yep. And of course, they still meet at the JLA washout, which is quite nice. And the issue ends basically them going after taking up. Well, yeah, they're just trying to deal with the menace once and for all. Yeah, I'm trying to think. Look here. What was the first appearance of a Flush Gang? Because I think it was the 70s. No, it was actually issue 43. Yeah, they're also a Gardner Fox creation. Yes. And as for the final issue of the storyline, they're joined. Now, on the cover, it looked like, oh, look, it's Superman. Well, he doesn't really take part in the story at all. Oh, yeah, so apparently the headquarters for Fontaine and Roulette are on a steamship on the Mississippi River. Interesting. So, oh, by the way, this whole 3-parter is called Royal Pain. Well, makes sense. And I love what they do here for the roll call. They have, like, the characters there. So they go after another syndicate, like another branch of theirs. So they take them down, and of course, basically, you have various team ups. You have, oh look, you have Plastic Man, and you have Dr. Light and Plastic Man. And Dr. Light points out, must he talk so much? He said, hey, I gave you top billing today. And he proceeds to beat him up. Of course, he gets blinded. And then, of course, then something really awesome happens. Like, they pass by a poster for Titano. Titano. Who the heck is Titano? From what I have read about the character, he was an ape from Star Labs that fought a version of DC's Godzilla back in the 70s. Yeah, it's almost like we made this sort of a 70s love letter. And then we have Vixen and Firestorm. Great. And of course, Vixen has a brief flashback talking to Superman. Basically referencing what happening in the pages of New Krypton at that point. Or he basically can sleep with them, not because what Black Canary did, but because basically, yeah, so. And then, like, game over, they lost everybody. And then the core Justice League show up. And then you have Wonder Woman, who actually has a long history with Fontaine. It's like, it's been a long time, Professor Fontaine. And then, of course, we have, well, Fontaine basically grabbing Roulette by the arm, basically dragging her around because he doesn't want her to get hurt. Well, he's being a nice gentleman about it. Yep. And, of course, they try to get away in their fancy speedboat. And then we have 3 epilogues. Epilogue the first. Roulette meets up with the Key. What's the point of this particular epilogue? Setup for... Well, it's a setup for Final Crisis. Second one's quite interesting. Where Fontaine is encountering a woman who her name is Emil Markham. Her husband was Eddie Markham, who used to be 2 of Clubs. And then he gets shot. And from what I can tell, he's dead. Yep. Fontaine's dead. Yep. Gotta say, really good 3-parter. Yep. Now, as for the next set of issues. Now, I give 29. Basically, I'll give that one a ranking of a 9 out of 10. This 3-parter, 9.5. Excellent 3-parter. Now, the next set of issues have been collected in trade. But here's kind of thing about this particular trade. Originally, this trade was so difficult to find. Couldn't find it on Amazon, couldn't find any website. Couldn't find a physical copy. Digital copy is available, but not a physical copy. Excuse me, for a book that came out 9 years ago. I spent a whole year trying to find this damn book. Couldn't find it, so I figured, I finally found it, and it's $60. No, thank you. I'm not buying it. So, screw it. Just basically do it like this. Just to talk about the individual issues. First, our issue 43, which is technically the last issue to talk about for Justice Society America Volume 3. Yep, the very last issue. It's basically an epilogue to Dark Things. That was a storyline going on. It was the second cross between Justice Society America Volume 3 and Justice League America Volume 2. Where pretty much this whole issue is just to focus on, well, the Alan Scott Green Lantern and his son Obsidian. That's really the point of this issue. And here's something unintentional about this issue. This issue is set up for the Rise of Calypso storyline in Justice League America Volume 2. Yeah, so he makes his Emerald City in this epilogue for it. Yeah, here's something quite strange, though, about this particular epilogue. Yeah, from what I looked up online, apparently this issue was not collected in Dark Tide's trade. They put it in Rise of Calypso for some strange reason. I have no idea why in the world DC did this for, but if I were them, I would have put this in the Dark Tide's trade, but nope, we had to put it in basically Rise of Calypso for some reason. So we start the city. Basically, the way also, and there's a really cool moment here where he's like, I am the original Green Lantern. And I love the fact they actually had him say in the logo of the classic the Golden Age Green Lantern series from the 1940s, which is great, the fact it is. And so he wants to help Obsidian, and of course, he tries to trap him, but yeah, persuades him, and of course, well, then we have basically things to come. Look like we have like a fight between like various different like heroes and villains coming. We have something going on with like some big calamity involving the current Sandman. Look like Terra, Geoforce, and some other guy. And then we have something in the future where it looks like that Starheart implanted actually Jade symbol playing on Obsidian's chest. And yeah, it just great setup for what basically is said to come in the Rise of Calypso storyline. Yep. The Rise of Calypso starts with issue number... Not that one there. It starts with issue 54. Yes, 54. This is roughly a 6-part storyline that pretty much concludes Volume 2. Yes, and here's the strange thing about this. Now, this is all James Robinson wrote. He also wrote the JSA issue, the Just Outside America Volume 3 issue, which also was the last issue he wrote for Just Outside America before he out briefly to Mark Guggenheim before the book was ended in 2011. Yeah, first we have a 6-parter. Well, yeah, a 6-parter where James Robinson writes it, but the artwork for the first 4 issues are done by Brett Booth. For the final 3 issues, they changed artists for some strange reason. I don't know why, but they did. Yeah, the whole point of the storyline is a curve of Calypso basically going to bang. And plus, they even have a Bill Sienkiewicz variant cover, which is so cool. Yep. So I think of a time as the past, basically for Justice League members. So at this point in time, members of Justice League are Jade, Starman. This, of course, is the alien one. Yes, the one popped up briefly from a one-shot in the 70s and became a recurring character in James Robinson's Starman. I guess James Robinson figured, though, well, I like this character. I developed him so well in my own Starman series. I'll put him here. Congarilla, my only guess is the reason I put him here, because he had been crying for justice. Everybody else, he probably just had to have come here. We also have Supergirl, Donna Troy, Batman. This is actually not Bruce Wayne at this point. This is Dick Grayson. Oh yeah, this is after Bruce Wayne came back. And Jesse Quick. We see that apparently Bruce Gordon has found the Calypso. Looks like one of his corpses, possibly. I don't remember who. It's Morpher's corpse. A guy named Morpher. And then he becomes Eclipse once again. Takes out some natives, kills them, and of course the island explodes. And then we have sort of like a chess game between Eclipso and Darkseid. This is probably like a backstory of how he got the powers. And then we have Jean Lauren when she was briefly the Eclipso host. And Nemesis, the guy who was basically for the JSA run. And we have Superman return to Eclipso. And then we have some really interesting things happen. We have Dr. Midnight showing up at the Shade's place. Appears briefly. And then we have the Shade turn to Eclipso. Yes, the Shade. And then we have Nightshade. Yes, Nightshade's next. And then some mysterious woman from Mexico. I don't know who this woman is. She's turned to a Shade. And then next is Carl Sands, the Shadow Thief. And then we have like some Beast turned to Eclipso. We have a serial killer who's eclipsed by, well, Eclipso obviously. And he's got his men. And then, of course, he said, I want Jade. Yep, that's simply put the first issue of this storyline. Yep. The next issue is a Reign of the Doomsday issue. This is so technically part of the Rise of Calypso storyline, but it's part of Reign of Doomsday. Reign of Doomsday, if you don't know what this storyline is, it's the return of Doomsday. That leads into a 4-parter in the pages of Action Comics by Dan Jurgens. It's also basically leads into... Yeah, Reign of Doomsday leads into like a storyline that's done by Dan Jurgens as the last hurrah for Action Comics before it gets relaunched for the New 52. Yep. So, we have us where Alan Scott's basically in bed, crippled. And then we have Supergirl becoming Dark Supergirl for some reason. And she also is encountering Bakuda, who is basically an Alpha Lantern. Yes, she's an Alpha Lantern. Yep. And then Doomsday shows up, basically wrecks her. And, by the way, the Dick Grayson Batman's here. Yeah, and why is Doomsday here? To get Supergirl. Yep, that's the whole reason why he's here, to get Supergirl. And then we have Statewalker show up, saving the Justice League. And of course, they go off, and of course, well, Doomsday is wrecking stuff. But the thing is, with a split cliffhanger, well, apparently Doomsday is not after Supergirl, but actually after the cyborg Superman. That story leads into Batman Superman number 5, which actually is Superman Batman number 5. I'm not sure why they wrote it this way. And the next story with Jade continues just JLA 56, which is the third part of the storyline. Yep. So, and then we have the Calypso Jade fighting Donna Troy. Yep. And of course, battling. Of course, we have a big brawl going on here. Cyborg is here, just because, well, we also have Animal-Man here too. Yes, Animal-Man is here as well. And then we have Red Tornado Class, and we have Zor-El. Yes, Zor-El is here. You don't know who this guy is? Well, best gist of this character, he was meant to be a stand-in for Hawkman. Because at the time when he first created, now the thing is, Grant Morrison, from what I read in an interview, he really wanted to use Hawkman in his JLA run, but there was a ban on him due to his confusing history. So he created Zor-El. At one point, this guy was mistaken for Hawkman. But then Jeff Johns brought back the actual Hawkman in his JSA book. Excuse me. And of course, well, then we see that Zor-El is taken out by Eclipso. More brawling going on in these issues, and of course the issue ends with Obsidian showing up. Yes, Obsidian. And then we come to issue 57, which is actually the last issue of this run done by Brett Booth. Because the very next issue we have a completely new artist. Do not know the reason for this at all. I don't really know why Brett Booth left in the middle of the story. The big thing with this story, and it's spoiled on the very cover, we have the Spectre show up fighting Eclipso. Yep. We get a brief tidbit of Starman's back history, and of course we have Alan Scott walk in, and they try to figure out a way to deal with Eclipso, and the Spectre's here. Yes. Now the Spectre at this point is not Jim Corrigan. No. This is actually Crispus Allen. Yeah, he's the current host of the Spectre at this point, though in the current continuity it's back being Jim Corrigan. Yep, so, yeah, and of course, Animal-Man's been eclipsed too, along with the Bulleteer. Yes, the Bulleteer, Grant Morrison's character from the Seven Soldiers book. Yep. And of course, well, they have the brawl between Eclipso and Spectre, and with Eclipso slicing him in half. And then we have, well, Saint Walker forming a big humongous bazooka to take on, well, Eclipso. And Eclipso stabs Zor through a moon and slice it in half. Yep. And then with the very next issue, we have a completely new artist for some reason. Do not know why. Yeah. Oh yeah, by the way, the story is called Donna Troy's Last Stand. With the artist being, let's see if we can find the artist here. It is Daniel Semper and Miguel Savita. Yeah, as far as I can tell, there is no real reason why Brett Booth cannot finish the storyline. Yeah, I don't really know why. So, more brawling going on. Of course, Donna Troy's outfit's getting ripped, mostly her legs. And then Ray Palmer shows up. Yes, Ray Palmer's here. Yes, and of course, remembering, oh yeah, he went inside Batman's head back in the 70s to reignite his head. They even have an editor's note. Happening back in Brave and the Bold 115, the original series. So, they want to use a similar idea. Team with Starman, do the same thing with the Shade, because Shade's the only one who can stop the Eclipso. So, they go inside his head, they remove the Eclipse Lemon, and, well, Shade turns back normal. Of course, we also have Donna Troy punching Eclipso right in the frickin' face. And, of course, well, they do, while fighting, we, of course, cut back and forth. And then we have the kind of way the conclusion of the storyline, but not the volume. Nope. The end of the storyline itself, issue 59. They get being triumphant. So Eclipse is like sitting on a throne with Spectre's cape on it. It looks like he's about to win. Of course, we have various other people show up in this panel. We also have Aquaman. We have the Joker's being eclipsed. Beast Boy. Harley Quinn. Superboy. Bane. The looks like Damian Robin. Looks like Batwoman's here. Along with Green Arrow, Zatanna. Both Batman. Wonder Woman. Yes, Wonder Woman's here. The one costume from the JMS run. Lex Luthor is here. Yes, Lex Luthor. We have Booster Gold in a brief cameo and a background shot with Etrigan and Captain. Bulleteer has been freed. Dove is here. It's a big, humongous brawl between metahumans. We see the various fields being eclipsed by eclipse, look like it's about to win. But lucky enough, they're able to free the Shade, no problem. And then slowly but surely, Shade uses the Shadow to free everybody from Eclipso. And everybody's back normal. Of course, Ever beats the crap out of Eclipso. Bruce is going to return normal. And then we journey back to the JLA Watchtower to have it where Batman announces this is going to be the last meeting in the Justice League. Yep, the final issue. Which has nothing to do with the actual Rise of Eclipse storyline. It's mostly an epilogue for this whole run. Yep. We have various battles going on, like Kong Gorilla finding out a robot, probably a nod to King Kong Escapes. We have stuff going on with New Krypton. Yeah, we have 2 pages with the War of the Superman storyline going on. Yeah, and despite that, we have where this incarnation of the JLA is going to disband. And of course, and we also see that Jesse Quick is pregnant. This is probably just after the revelation that happened in Justice Society America Volume 3. Of course, we have various look-backs at the history of this run, and not much for the whole run itself. Mostly in the James Humphries run. It's a nice, goodbye to the run, and that's that. I gotta say, really good storyline. I gotta admit, this was pure fun. Reviewing these issues is just so freaking good. I'm gonna give the Rise of Eclipse storyline a 10 out of 10. It's an excellent storyline. Now, final thoughts on both Justice Society America Volume 3 and Justice League America Volume 2. Because, well, I've technically finished up this whole run. Yep. And here are the trades for Justice League America. Yep. Yeah. Now, this book only had a handful of different writers with it. First, it was Brad Militzer, though a few issues co-written by Jeff Johns. And then Dwayne McDuffie took over the book. He had a pretty lengthy run of the book. Yeah. He took a book for issue 13 and finally didn't leave to issue 34. Though he did have a few issues done by Ewing, like I mentioned. And then pretty much right after Ewing took over, right after left the book, with this storyline right here, pretty much the rest of this whole run was done by James Robertson. Basically in these 3 trades and Rise of Eclipso. Yep. And of course, you can't forget to talk about Justice Society America, because, well, here are all the trades for the entire run. All of JSA Volume 3. Yep. My final thoughts on both runs. Justice Society America Volume 3 is a fantastic series, though I think the weakest writer of the whole book is Bill Willingham, who didn't really know what he wanted. It's almost like he wanted to split the group in half, mainly because of too many characters. So looking at the book does go a bit better afterwards, when Mark Guggenheim took over the book after James Thomas's brief intermission of the book. Justice League America, fantastic book. I mean, no really bad issues the whole run. It had great artwork, had a few one or two one-shots, but mostly for the collected. And here's something interesting, though. Justice Society America Volume 3 had 2 annuals come out when it was coming out and being published. But as for in the case of Justice League America, no annuals. Everybody thinking, really? Yeah, really. Also, thanks to viewing those issues, I have now fully reviewed for Justice League America, well, Justice League anyways, the main book, pretty much as far back as 2005. Yep, 2005. Yep. Alright, moving on to Captain America and Mighty Avengers. The first 3 issues are, I'm going to do this in 2 story arcs, basically, because that's what these are. The first 3 issues are tie-ins to Access, where 2 of the members of the Mighty Avengers are inverted. Captain America and Luke Cage. Yes, Luke Cage is inverted. Now, he basically sees that Spider-Man shows up. Of course, he's changed because he's wearing a suit. And also, Cthulhu, I think his name is, he's a sorcerer who popped up in our previous book. He has officially joined the Mighty Avengers. Now, Spidey tries to apologize to Luke Cage, but Luke Cage is inverted and he's acting evil. And then later on reveals, oh yeah, I've sold the Mighty Avengers. And then we also have it where we have the Cortex Corporation basically doing mild stuff. And the Access stuff, mostly put, is just, well, somewhat of a tie-in to what goes in the main book. It's almost like when you read this book, it's almost like this book is, despite the fact we take place during the events of Axis, it doesn't really play a big role in it. No, it's mostly having the regular Team Avengers try to take out the Mighty Avengers. Well, the inverted ones, anyways. Yeah, and basically plotting for 2 issues to take him down, and then finally issue 3 they fight him, and then of course Spidey shows up and says, "You guys are wrong, and you guys should leave because you are not yourselves, and this is not how the Avengers act." Also, at one point, Luke Cage tries to sell the Avengers, like, "Oh yeah, I sold the Mighty Avengers, everything," and then She-Hulk pops like, "Technically you can't sell the team." He's probably like, "Why?" "Because you didn't read the fine print. This is a cooperative. We have to get everybody's agreement to sell the Mighty Avengers. So you just sold yourself, not the team." So yeah. And then of course, like after issue 3, oh yeah, he tells the other inverted Avengers, "Don't harm Jessica or his baby. You can hurt everybody else." And of course, that's when Spider-Man shows up, and well, that team of inverted Avengers all disband and do their own thing in Access. Yeah. But it's only 3 issues, and the next 4 issues is a 4-part storyline that actually is a follow-up to Next Wave. How? I'll reveal. Now, the thing with these issues here is that we finally deal with the Cortex Corporation. What exactly is the Cortex Corporation? Where we see that in the first issue, Golden Mace is killed. Yes, Golden Mace. The guy who was a racist. And the person responsible for killing the White Tiger's family. Killed her parents, but didn't kill her brother, who was the original White Tiger. Yeah, the whole thing with her and Hector and of course the second White Tiger, is so confusing. Hector Avella is still considered to be the original White Tiger. But Ava and the second White Tiger, this particular relationship is so confusing. Why, you say? Because Ava is a freaking teenager. And we have also where the second White Tiger is her niece. How the heck is this possible? This is one thing about these two relationships never been properly explained. How is it we have a teenage character, a teenage movie White Tiger, and her predecessor being an adult? Yeah, this really makes no sense at all. Unless, of course, Hector had another sibling no one knew about. Yeah, this is something that's never been properly explained by Marvel Comics. It's almost confusing things. So Golden Mace is killed by Jason Cortex. And then, of course, well, we have here a few pop up in space. Of course, we mentioned Sword. Yes, Sword, an organization that actually was disbanded after the events of Secret Wars, but was brought back just last year. Of course, replaced with the Outflight Space Program. Now, in the case of what happens next, is quite interesting. We reveal that actually Jason Cortex is from the Beyond Corporation. You're probably thinking, what the heck is the Beyond Corporation? It's something associated with Warren Ellis' Next Wave. I had to look for checking it out because Monica, of course, they basically say, Jason asked Monica, tell Luke Cage, ask Monica what the Beyond Corporation is. And of course she explains, and of course she beats the crap out of this other creature. And of course we have it where one of Blue Marvel's sons shows up and takes Jason Cortex in our dimension. Spider-Man, of course, is a beneficial member of the team. And his chemistry with Blue Marvel is fantastic. I should point out that all the issues are written by Al Ewing, and I believe all the artwork is done by, I think it's done by Luke Ross. Let's see. Yeah, I believe he does all the issues. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he does every issue of this entire, I would say pretty much all 9 issues. Mm-hmm. Yeah, here's the cover for the very first issue of this run. It is really good. Mm-hmm. Yep. And they deal with Jason Cortex. And, well, this also hints at potential romance between, well, Blue Marvel and Monica Rambeau. Though, in the case of this particular team, well, it wouldn't last very long because at the end of the 7th issue, we have Old Man Steve Rogers calling up because Secret Wars is happening. Yep. Well, the last Days 2-parter. 2 issues that tie into to that particular thing. I gotta say, the opening 7 issues are really good. Thoroughly enjoyable to read. I give the first 7 issues a 9.5 out of 10. Final thoughts on Al Ewing's run on Mighty Avengers. Here is the original run on Mighty Avengers. Volume 1. 2, and 3. Now, the thing with Mighty Avengers, unlike the original run, which had Lenz started with the artist, and they would play a different one, Luke Ross, from what I can tell for this book, wrote all 9 issues. Yes, now as far as I can tell why the book ended in 9 issues, presumably low sales. But what happened to this team right afterwards? Well, the team disbanded. But what happened to members? Well, Sam went to the regular Avengers team, but for the rest of the members, well, Spider-Man did his own thing after Secret War before rejoining the Mighty Avengers. Power Man and, well, White Tiger joined the New Avengers, the AIM lineup. I don't know where he went off to. Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, they, from what I can tell, they didn't do very much after this book ended. They popped up a few times in Deadpool. Yeah, actually, no, they popped up in Deadpool. I don't really know what these two did. I think these two did eventually get their own self-titled ongoing series come right after this. But yeah, not much for them after this. Now, as in the case of Bill Monica Rambeau, these two moved over to the Ultimates. She-Hulk herself moved over to A-Force, where she was part of that group very briefly before it got canceled 10 issues. Yep. But this book is really good. I had to look at checking it out because Al Ewing does a great job with this book. And it's interesting that he kind of splits the team up into 2 separate books that he writes. Ultimates, and of course, New Avengers, which later gets relaunched as U.S. Avengers after Civil War 1, 2, and of course, the Ultimates book, which relaunched after 13 issues to Ultimate Squared, also after Civil War 2. Yeah, I think it's kind of weird. It's almost like anything Al Ewing wanted to do keep getting screwed up by Brian Michael Bendis. Yep. But yeah, that's the episode of Good Review, and this is one of my longest reviews I've done for this series because I discuss individual issues instead of us in trades. Yep. But yeah, so I'll see you tomorrow for my review for 7 Deadly Sins, One Piece. I only watched the first 2 episodes tonight, so I'll probably watch the rest of it tomorrow. And that'll probably be it for tonight. Okay? For tomorrow, okay? Next video. Bye.